few minutes. We hear a few people that are going to speak to all of you this afternoon. And I have the privilege and the honor of starting out. So, again, good afternoon, everybody. And thank you so much for coming out this afternoon on a Sunday. I'm sure a busy Sunday with all your families. A special thanks to all of the folks that traveled from so many distant places. We have people that flew from Boston. We have people that drove from San Diego. We have people from Seattle here, all to celebrate with us, to celebrate Jim's life. So special thanks to all of you for coming out. It's actually been exactly 3 months. You know, I wonder if we could shut that. Thank you, Drew. That was really sharp. Anyway, thanks again to everybody. It's today is exactly 3 months, actually, to the day when I had the unfortunate job of scheduling and conducting a town hall for our entire West region to talk about the tragic passing of Jim Pierpont over the past weekend. And so I think it's fitting that 3 months later, we're coming together as friends of Jim, as family, Jim's family, to talk today about how we can celebrate Jim's life, to tell stories, to share food and wine, and to have a good time, because Jim, we all know, would want us to be that way. Jim, as some of you know, maybe not all of you know, was actually with Suffolk for 10 years. So I had the pleasure over my entire tenure of working with Jim Pierpont at Suffolk Construction. And Jim was the epitome of a road warrior for our organization. In that 10-year period, he was hired in Boston to come to work in Boston. And not that this ever happens at Suffolk. As soon as he arrived day one, we said, "Hey Jim, would you mind going to Baltimore for us?" So we dispatched Jim to Baltimore. Jim worked in Baltimore. He worked in Washington, D.C. He was back in Boston. Jim came to Irvine, California the first time. Jim worked in Irvine. And then he went back to Boston again and built a high-rise in Boston. And then I asked Jim to come out to Los Angeles a couple of years ago, and Jim was really willing to do it. So this is a person, a professional, and an individual that was very, very committed to what we were doing as an organization, very committed to all of his colleagues in the business, which is rare these days, and it's something that we really appreciated. And over Jim's work at Suffolk, he was an amazing operational leader. This guy could build anything, and he had the confidence and the presence to be able to talk to clients and talk to colleagues and talk to younger staff that he was mentoring to get these people to work to their absolute best. It was something that Jim did extremely well. It just so happens that literally 2 weeks before Jim's illness, that Jim and I had spoken, we talked about his future in the organization, his commitment to Los Angeles, and we promoted him to Vice President of Operations. And we did that not because of how strong he was as an operations person, but because how committed he was to the men and the women, particularly the up-and-coming men and women in our business, and bringing them along and mentoring them and making them better construction professionals. And people saw that, and for that reason, people followed Jim Pierpont, and that was one of the reasons, that's the primary reason why we gave him that promotion. And I actually received a note from him immediately after that on Thanksgiving morning. And he wrote me a note, an email note, and he talked about his aspirations for the teams at 880 South Polk and at the Afour City 11 by 12 site. And it wasn't about what he was going to do for himself, it was about what he was going to be doing for those young professionals. And it was very, very inspiring. And it's unfortunate that we didn't get to do that, but I hope all of you remember that, particularly people that you work with, remember that, and every single day think about living up to Jim's expectations in what you do. I think you really, really appreciate that and respect that. But Jim was kind of a private person. I didn't know, even though I worked with him an awful lot for many years, I didn't know a lot about Jim. But even though he was a private person, he always wanted to know a little bit about you as an individual. He asked about families, he asked about your children, he asked about your spouses or partners. He was very curious about people, and it was something that I think he really enjoyed. He was also a person that he was easy to hang out with. A Miller Lite by the beach, that's why we're doing this today. Go out after work and have a quick beer, go out and have lunch. He was just that kind of person. He was just easy to hang around with. his daily pilgrimage to the Subway shop across the way was well known in the city of Los Angeles. Everybody expected it. It seemed like the lights stopped and the crosswalk said walk when Jim closed the curb. And I'm not exaggerating. I mean, it was literally that regular that we could expect that. You know, in his own way, also, he's a bit of a rebel. I think you probably knew that. He had this hair thing. If you remember this hair thing, yeah. You know, at Suffolk, we sort of all looked like, sort of like me, short hair, and we tried to maintain that professional presence. And Jim did, but he had this hair thing going. And I did. John Fish always was trying to hand him a $100 bill to go get a haircut, and he wouldn't do it. Except he did it when he knew it was important for the organization. And right before the McFarland interview, he went out and he got a haircut. He was a boys regular. He came back. I think he went to Quick Cuts at one of those places or something like that. But he did it because he knew it was the right thing to do overall. We remember, one of the things I remember about Jim is we'd be sitting at a conference table, we'd be talking, he'd cross his leg, and I could always count on his LL Bean loafers to be absolutely worn right through. And I could see the sock, and I'd say, Jim, can I buy a pair of shoes? No, I'm fine. And so it was his thing. It was the way he was going to be, and we weren't going to change any of that. And we connected, Jim and I, through our common vision for what we wanted to do here, because I'm a transplant here and Jim's a transplant here, and we talked about this as pioneers and what we were going to do in this sort of foreign land and how we would do it together and how we would do it with all of you. And it was one of the ways that we really connected, and we spent a lot of time talking about that. The other thing we spent a lot of time was Jim was a car guy, and it was something that I never really knew or really appreciated, but he loved his cars. He loved his Range Rover, and then we went up and bought the Volkswagen. I gave him a hard time over buying a little Volkswagen. They told me he got a great deal on it. But I'll tell you, that car, all of those cars were pristine clean all the time. And he used to say, hey, I got this great car wash you have to try, where the guy vacuums the rugs, and the lines are all in the same direction. And I'm a little bit fanatical like that as well. And so we really had a good time talking about those types of things. There was something else that it was a very eerie connection that Jim and I had that unfortunately I didn't know about until after Jim passed. If you're a car guy, one of the things you need to know is you're also probably a license plate guy. And what that means is the numbers on your license plate, the digits, sequential or not, that's all really important to car guys. So when we were sort of collecting Jim's business and trying to close up with him, it was the first time I actually saw his Range Rover, and I actually noticed the license plate, and it was still registered in Massachusetts, even though he'd been there for a couple of years, so that's another story. But he had a plate that was dedicated to, after 911 in Massachusetts, it's called a US plate. And the number is US 1963 MD. 1963 was my birth year, MD was my initials. I just thought it was really kind of this funny connection that when I thought about it and I saw it, I said, you know, I think about Jim a lot, and when I see that license plate, I think that's just not coincidence. There's something about that actually happened. So just a little interesting side story. Last Thanksgiving, on the same day that he actually sent me that note, he came to my house here for dinner. Now, if you're from outside the area and you don't always go home for holidays, the people that don't go home for holidays, we call them strays around here. So we had the strays over to my apartment for Thanksgiving dinner, and it was all guys, Drew remembers, and Marco Eberth and Jim Pierpont, and we had a whole new appreciation for hosting a holiday when a bunch of guys who've never done this before try to pull something together. But it was great. We had a great conversation. It was an awful lot of fun. And something else happened that Thanksgiving. It became really true for me that at Suffolk, your coworkers are your family. Maybe not your primary family, maybe they are your primary family, but I'll tell you, co-workers at Suffolk are part of the family. You're part of my family, I hope I'm part of yours. And it really surfaced for me when we had that Thanksgiving dinner together as a group of strays, that we were all in this together. And that brings me to talk to you a little bit about what we learned from this loss. I think it's important to think about a few things. First of all, take care of yourself. Your health is more important than anything else. So I beg everybody to do that. Second, listen to your body. If you're feeling something, do something about it. Third, Suffolk is your extended family, and we care about you, every one of you, and I know that you care about each other. That's critical. That's a learning lesson from this situation. I'm going to quote somebody. I've been told not to tell us who it's from because if you're a San Diego Chargers fan, you might not appreciate this. But a patriarch of a well-known sports team in San Diego, who will soon be in Los Angeles, he said the following about families: "A solid family foundation is everything. Without your family, you'll be emotionally empty, no matter how fabulous your accomplishments." And I think that really says something to me. I hope it says something to you as well about what it is that we can learn from this situation. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is the resilience of all of you following this. It's been 3 months. Jim was a major driver in our business overall. But people stepping up, both people in the office, people on the sites. We've had resources from the Northeast and from the Southeast step in to help us, to try to fill some of that void, and that is true resilience. We've had people supporting Jim's family. There's been a lot of phone calls with Jim's family. I want to just shout out to Todd Bressler for being an amazing friend, and if I could, just a hand for Todd. And of course, clients. Clients have been amazingly supportive. We have clients here with us today, which we really appreciate. I won't embarrass them by calling them out, but they've been amazingly supportive of Jim and what Jim did, and following that, what our teams are doing to come together. So we really appreciate that as well. So I think that all of us should feel very special to have known Jim, to be able to call Jim a friend. I feel that way. I miss him an awful lot. I'm sure all of you do. And I hope that we can continue to tell stories about the things that were just wonderful in our experiences with Jim for the rest of the afternoon. So thank you very much.